The heavy rain. In a small, secluded village surrounded by rolling hills and dense forests, life moved at a slow, predictable pace. The villagers were content with their daily routines, each season bringing its unique rhythms and challenges. Summer was the time of harvest, autumn brought the turning of leaves, and winter meant huddling around the fire for warmth. But spring was different. In the spring, the rains would come, sometimes lightly, sometimes heavily, but always with purpose, as if the heavens were nourishing the land for the next season of growth. However, this spring was unlike any the villagers had seen before. Dark, ominous clouds gathered early in the season, and when the rain started, it showed no sign of stopping. Days turned into weeks, and the once life-giving showers turned into torrential downpours that seemed to swallow the earth. Rivers overflowed, paths became rivers of mud, and crops, which had been on the verge of sprouting, now drowned beneath the relentless assault of water. The villagers were gripped with fear as the rain battered their homes day and night. Old Marta, the village elder, spoke of the last great flood that had occurred when she was a child. She told of how the floodwaters had risen so high that homes were swept away, livestock drowned, and people were forced to flee to higher ground, leaving their possessions behind. "This rain," she warned, "may be a test from the heavens." But while some heeded her words and began preparing for the worst, others dismissed her as a superstitious old woman. Among those skeptical of Marta's warnings was Gabor, a proud and stubborn farmer who believed that nature could be tamed with hard work and determination. His farm, located on the edge of the village near the river, had been in his family for generations. He was determined to save it, no matter the cost. He worked tirelessly to dig trenches around his crops, hoping to divert the floodwaters. Day and night, he labored in the rain, mud caking his boots, his body growing weary, but his spirit unbroken. But the rain showed no mercy. As days dragged on, the village became a ghost town of people hiding in their homes, waiting for the storm to pass. The once clear river that meandered gently through the valley became a raging torrent, threatening to burst its banks at any moment. Gabor's trenches filled almost as quickly as he dug them, and soon even his farm animals, his prized cows and chickens, began to succumb to the cold and wet. Yet Gabor pressed on, unwilling to accept defeat. "The rain will stop," he muttered to himself. "It must." But nature, indifferent to his pleas, continued its relentless downpour. Soon the river overflowed, swallowing his fields, his barn, and his hopes. Gabor stood at the edge of what was once his farm, now a lake of muddy water, his heart heavy with despair. In that moment he realized that no amount of work, no amount of stubbornness, could change the course of nature. His farm was lost. Meanwhile, back in the heart of the village, Marta and the others had taken a different approach. Rather than fight the rain, they had decided to adapt. They worked together to reinforce their homes, using sandbags and building elevated walkways to navigate the flooded streets. They shared food, offered shelter to those whose homes had been overtaken by water, and comforted each other through the long, dark nights. Though the rain continued, the village endured, not by resisting the storm, but by accepting it and finding ways to live with it. After weeks of rain, the storm finally began to weaken. The dark clouds that had loomed overhead for so long began to break apart, revealing patches of blue sky. The rivers receded, the mud dried, and the sun, warm and golden, returned. Though the village had suffered greatly, the people had survived, and in many ways they were stronger for it. Gabor, humbled by the loss of his farm, approached Marta and the others. "You were right," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The rain wasn't something to fight, it was something to endure." Marta nodded, placing a weathered hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the greatest strength lies not in resisting the storm, but in learning to bend with the wind." And with that, the village began to rebuild, not just their homes and farms, but their understanding of the world around them.